Well, it's 2012, and I thought what better time than to do a top 10 upcoming films of 2012 list. It's been a while since I've done a top 10, and I'm really looking forward to getting back into doing these. So let's get started. I should say there's probably plenty of films that I've forgotten about, so we'll see how this goes. Okay, so the first film is Taken 2. Now, the only reason I'm looking forward to this film is because the first Taken really surprised me. I felt it was a really solid action film, and I felt in a lot of ways, even though it had some of the trappings of sort of modern action movies, I felt it really sort of harked back to 1980s, early 1990s action movies. There was obviously the whole sort of 24 thing going on with this guy trying to find his daughter, and but I think the casting itself, just of Liam Neeson doing that sort of role, I'd never seen him sort of do that before. Liam Neeson gets a lot of criticism, you know, for like playing the same guy all the time, but you know, I always find him quite compelling whenever I see him in a film, and I thought he was excellent in this. Really kicked ass, and it was kind of similar to when you saw Matt Damon in the Bourne films. You maybe didn't sort of see them in that sort of character, but then once they were, they were really great in that role. So I'm looking forward to seeing this film. My only concern with it is that I hope they don't do well. They're obviously doing a kidnapping thing again. If it's going to be called Taken 2, and I think that sort of just like 24 kind of it felt like it kind of started retreading itself. You don't want these films to do it, because if they pull this one off, then they've got themselves a bona fide franchise, because no one expected Taken to do very well, and I think just word of mouth, low expectations, people went to see it, they enjoyed it. You know, it wasn't an incredible film, but it was a really solid action flick, and I really enjoyed it. So what I'm hoping is, if they are doing the sort of him trying to find another person that's been kidnapped, it's not like his daughter again, or like a family member. Maybe he's hired or approached to find someone, something like that. I don't know. It would be really cool if they actually went for something completely different, just put that character in that situation, but I very much doubt they would actually do that. Okay, so that's Taken 2, looking forward to that. The Amazing Spider-Man. I think this film may fail miserably for a number of reasons. I think, first of all, although Batman did the reboot thing, I think this is too soon for people. I think a lot of people felt like Sam Raimi should have been given a chance to do Spider-Man 4, because Spider-Man 3 was wrecked by producer involvement. So I think a lot of people were like, let him do Spider-Man 4 just as a sort of swan song. But unlike the Batman franchise, when it had a reboot, we hadn't had a Batman origin story. The 1989 film, Tim Burton film, quite cleverly, I felt, started sort of, I think it was like 6 or 7 weeks into Batman's career, so you never saw the origin story. They did kind of explain who he was and why he was the way he was, but you didn't really get a proper origin story, and we got that in Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins. But we got an origin story for Spider-Man from Sam Raimi. Yes, he changed things up. He brought in MJ earlier and all that sort of stuff, but I mean, you could web sling. That seems to be a big problem for some people with those films, because he could do it naturally, unlike in the comics where he actually built a device that let him web sling. But never had a problem with that, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's too soon, because we've already had the origin story. I think if they were going to reboot it, they should have just I think jumped into it and not referenced the other movies if they wanted to really separate themselves from that. We'll see what happens. I'm interested to see, because I've also heard, I don't know, I haven't looked up the figures, but I heard a few people say that it's been sort of done on the cheap, which I can't imagine. I can't imagine Sony doing that, because or is it Sony that's doing it? I can't remember. Is it Marvel Studios? Oh, never mind. But I heard it was being done in the cheap, so you're like, well, I just can't see that, because even though Spider-Man 3 was a critical failure, I think it made an absolute ton of money. So you would think that they would still invest heavily in the film, but we'll just have to see what happens. I'm interested because outside of DC, Spider-Man's, the guy for me. Like he's one of my favourite superheroes. So, looking forward to seeing what they do with it. I hope they've really changed it up, but it sounds like they're actually doing something more in line with the original comics, but we'll see what happens. Okay, the next one's another superhero film, and 2012 most definitely is going to be the year of superhero movies, and the next film is The Avengers. I was not excited for this film at all, except when I realised it was Joss Whedon that was doing it. The reason I'm excited for Joss Whedon is I'm a huge fan of Firefly and Serenity. If you don't know the background of that television series and movie, go and check it out. But it was basically something that got cut down in its prime. And Joss Whedon, although he had success with Buffy, I think he struggled a little bit along the way, and I really feel like this could be the making of him. He could get some. I mean, this is an A picture. I don't know how he landed this gig, but he must have really impressed someone somewhere. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with it. And Joss Whedon always sort of puts in a lot of heart, I think, to his characters. So we shouldn't really get characters that are two-dimensional. The only problem with that is, how do you do that with so many characters? I've got a funny feeling that the film is going to focus on a couple of them, and the rest will maybe fall by the wayside a little bit. Loki's the bad guy in it, so Thor must play a large part. It would be a huge mistake if they didn't have Thor as having a large part in the film, because it's his brother that's the enemy. I've got a funny feeling the one that's going to suffer is perhaps Captain America. Maybe he won't have as bigger part in it. Iron Man, they're marketing it as if it's almost like Iron Man 3, plus friends. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Incredible Hulk, unknown quantity. So we don't really know what's happening with that. But I hope it's really good. It's difficult to see with so many characters how it's going to avoid being a bit of a mess. But I always thought the Avengers was much better suited towards like a mini series or something like that. But we just have to see. We'll see what happens with it. I'm looking forward to it though. Thor really impressed me. The film, I watched it not that long ago, and I think I think Kenneth Branagh did a great job with that. Really made quite a really nice wee superhero film that again had sentiment in the middle of it. It wasn't just all flashy effects, and so that impressed me. Captain America impressed me quite a lot as well. Didn't finish as strong as it started, but I think Marvel's just done a fantastic job, really, if you think about it, with all the different films. And I really wish DC would get their act together, to be honest, because apart from Batman, they've really not done well at all. Okay, so that's the Avengers. The next film is The Descendants, and the only reason I'm looking forward to this is because it's directed by Alexander Payne. I love Sideways and About Schmidt, and this film is about a guy played by George Clooney whose wife ends up in a coma, and he finds out she has a lover, so he tries to figure out who this boyfriend of hers is. I don't know much else about it. I did watch the trailer. I think some people are worried that the trailer looks as if the film's going a little bit too sickly sweet, but I would doubt that. I really would doubt that. I hope it has the same vibe to Sideways and About Schmidt, where it has that sentiment, but it also has a lot of a real sort of dark edge to it as well, and quirkiness to it, but I loved About Schmidt and Sideways, especially Sideways. That film was just fantastic. Paul Giamatti's wonderful in that, so that's why I'm looking forward to this, because I don't think Alexander Payne's done a feature-length film since Sideways, so we'll see what happens. Okay, the next one is J. Edgar. and I'm looking forward to this because Leonardo DiCaprio's in the lead. I think can I say his name? Leonardo DiCaprio is is a really great. I'm just going to say DiCaprio from now on. Yeah, I think he's a really great actor. Loved him in Inception. But I'm most looking forward to it because I thought he was amazing in The Aviator, which was also a sort of biopic. And this is with Clint Eastwood, who I think is a bit hit and miss. I'm a big fan of Clint Eastwood, you know, as an actor. I think he's directed some great films as well, but I think he dips and then comes back up again. He does that a lot, and I'm really hoping this will be something special. We'll see what happens. I keep saying that with everything, but yeah, DiCaprio and Eastwood is going to be an interesting mix. And I love The Aviator so much. I know that was Scorsese, but I really feel DiCaprio's got the acting chops to do it. Clint Eastwood's got the directing chops to do it. So hopefully they'll come together and do something special. Okay, the next film is one that I don't know that much about, but again, it's sort of more down to the director. It's by Alfonso Cuarón, if that's how you pronounce his name, probably not. Who directed Prisoner of Azkaban, which I think is still like the strongest film in the Harry Potter series. And this is Gravity, which is come up. We also did Children of Men as well, which is a fantastic science fiction movie. And this film's called Gravity, and it's about I think it stars Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. It's about a female astronaut, I think, who or is it George Clooney is the astronaut? He's certainly not a female astronaut. Anyway, it's about an astronaut who's sent out to repair the Hubble telescope, and something hideously wrong occurs, and the astronaut ends up trapped out there, and I think it's about how they try to get the astronaut back home. So we'll see. Again, I need to stop saying that. I say about everything. We'll see how it goes. I love to sit in the fence. I think that Alfonso Cuarón's like just a fantastic director, and again, it's just really on the strength of his previous work. The only thing is, this film is meant to be his experimentation with 3D, but he is a very strong visualist, so he might do something good with it. I hope he does. But yeah, that's Gravity. Looking forward to that. The next four really are films that I've talked about a great deal in other videos. Number 4, you've got The Woman in Black, which I think is it says in the trailer, the most chilling ghost story of our time. I think it probably is the greatest ghost story of the last sort of 20 or 30 years, certainly that I've read. Daniel Radcliffe plays the lead, and it's about a man who is sent to deal with the accounts and estate of a woman who's passed away in this small coastal town in England, and her house is out on this causeway, this piece of land that links the house to the mainland, and the tide comes in at certain times and cuts the house off from the mainland. And it's about how he's staying out there, and he starts to see ghostly apparitions and starts to realise that there is something amiss with the house, the place, and that the previous owners of the house have a very dark secret. Daniel Radcliffe in the lead. I think he's been really smart choosing this. I wonder how long ago the film was made, because I think I remember seeing production stills for this. It can't have been, maybe it was like 2 years ago, so maybe it was filmed or finished a long time ago, I'm not sure. I think I read somewhere that production sort of stopped and started, but the trailer looks, I mean, my girlfriend watched it and she loves the story of The Woman in Black, and the thing she's disappointed in is, from the trailer you can tell they've added in a lot of Hollywood into a lot of other ghostly goings on which aren't in the book. But that doesn't really bother me. I think you probably do have to do that to stretch it out for cinema. I'm just interested to see what Daniel Radcliffe will be like in a role away from Harry Potter. This could be the role that really defines him if it's a success. And the cinematography looks fantastic. My only worry with it is the cinematography looks a little bit, or the production design looks a little bit too clean cut, a little bit too vibrant, I think, for the story, but it might not be. I mean, it still looks like it's been fantastically shot, and it's being released by Hammer Studios, so Hammer horror back in action, which is always good to see. So that's The Woman in Black. Number 3 is The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. I'm really looking forward to this. Well, I've said in other videos probably that The Hobbit, I think, was the earliest book I ever read. I always preferred The Hobbit to Lord of the Rings. As much as I love Lord of the Rings as a book, I always preferred The Hobbit, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Peter Jackson does with it. I have my reservations. I don't think Peter Jackson wanted to direct this. I think he did everything he could to not direct it, but one thing after another led to either him directing it or the project going tits up, and I think he just thought, right, I need to save this. So that's my worry. Does he have the passion for it, the same level of passion he had for Lord of the Rings when he's been doing this? I also worry the fact that it's not just strictly The Hobbit. They're bringing in material from the appendices from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So they're bringing in stuff that to make it a true prequel to Lord of the Rings, because The Hobbit isn't really, other than the finding of the ring at one point in the story, it's not a prequel really. I mean, it's a standalone story. So they're obviously bringing in other stuff to flesh it out. How will that work? I'm not so sure. They're also changing the tone of it. The Hobbit is a fairy tale for children, essentially, and although it does have dark moments and plenty of exciting moments, it is a kid's story in a lot of ways, and tonally they're trying to make it darker than it actually was, I think, so that and give it a real sense of jeopardy, gravitas, because Lord of the Rings are talking about the fate of all the people on that planet, well, this planet in Middle Earth, and in The Hobbit you're really talking about a bunch of dwarves that want to go and well, I don't want to ruin it for anyone as I see, but you're talking about these dwarves that want to go and reclaim their birthrights basically, and protect their heritage, and it's not, doesn't have that same level of jeopardy to it, or sense of jeopardy. So that's my worry, is that they're going to try and give it that, make it bigger than the story actually is. But I'm still really looking forward to it. I've been watching the production diaries, which has been a lot of fun, really put me in the mood for it, and great to see Andy Serkis doing some second unit directing for Peter Jackson and all that. Really great to see him do that, and we'll see. I need to stop saying that. It's really annoying me. I just keep saying we'll see what happens. Okay, that's The Hobbit. At number 2 we've got The Dark Knight Rises. I've done a video on this as well. The conclusion to Nolan's Batman trilogy. What's great about this is that it's been set up as the end of the story, so if we get more Batman films, and I'm sure we will afterwards, it won't be within this universe. It's these 3 films and that's it. I've got a funny feeling that Nolan's going to try and pull off something quite tricky. I don't know whether he'll kill off Batman and then the people of Gotham will unite behind his example, which is what the 3 films are about. Batman Begins, they unite behind the example of his parents. The Dark Knight, they unite behind the example of Harvey Dent. And in the 3rd film, perhaps, they unite and bring Gotham up out of the gutter by Batman's example. Either that, or perhaps they'll go down the comic routes, which was that Bane injures Batman, and then there's a replacement. A lot of people have said Joseph Gordon-Levitt, that he is he's in this role in the film. People are trying to say, who is he? So there's a lot of rumours. Robin, although no one's kind of said that Robin would never be in his films, or perhaps he will be Batman's replacement. I don't know. I think they're going to try and do something really, really tricky. I was kind of looking forward to the rumour originally when they made Batman Begins, which was that by the 3rd film you would see Batman as you recognise him, with the yellow emblem, and you know, he would drive in the sort of slicker Batmobile, and he would really be comfortable in his own skin. and I was hoping that would be the last image of the film. You know, this is what he's doing, but I think it's gonna be a lot darker than that. I'm so looking forward to it. Tom Hardy as Bane, I think will be excellent. I'm really glad that they're redubbing his dialogue if there has been problems with it. Because my one complaint, I hope they really, really, really tone down Christian Bale's voice for Dark Knight Rises, because it was ridiculous. I mean, that's the one thing that really I've really let the Dark Knight down. I mean, Christian Bale's a fantastic Batman, but they manipulated his voice as well to make it, you know, boom more. And I still think Michael Keaton is the best Batman. Just he played Batman like he was a ghost, you know, especially in the first film. Second one is a bit more psychotic, but his sort of sinister voice that he would put on as Batman, the way he moved, you know, just he was Batman, you know. Like Christian Bale's done a fantastic job, but I wish he'd taken a note from Keaton and done a voice similar to it. But we'll see what happens with the Dark Knight Rises. Said it again. I think I'm hopeful, really hopeful, that we'll finally have a great superhero trilogy, because we don't have one. Would be really great. Okay, but that's the Dark Knight Rises, and the last film, I'm sure you guessed it, is Prometheus. Talked a lot about this movie. Ridley Scott returning to the science fiction genre. Whether it's a science fiction horror film, we don't exactly know, but it does seem to be pretty certain that it is set in the Alien universe. I don't think it'll be an out-and-out Alien film, but it is set in the universe, and the trailer looks fantastic. It looks as if Ridley Scott is visually on his A game. Hopefully he can bring everything else to bring it together. I've talked about this film a million times over, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but that's the number one film I'm looking forward to this year. So that's my top 10 films to look forward to for 2012. So are there any films that you guys are looking forward to, and why? And are there any ones that perhaps I've not even heard of that you can recommend to me? I always love getting recommendations. A few more reviews coming up this week, and hopefully back to an analysis series as well. Hope you're all doing well, and take care.